Hello, welcome to the Stretford Enders. We're back with another podcast. I'm joined by Gavin. Today, we're going to be discussing the mess of this football club, and we'll also be breaking down the team as fans, what players we think that should be going, what players should be, and what players deserve to stay at the football club. Gavin, how are you? Are you still feeling as gutted as I am after that result on the weekend against Leicester?
Yeah, I am, to be honest. I just wanted to start as well the podcast just by sending a speedy recovery to our former manager Louis van Gaal.
Yeah.
He came out last night on Dutch television and said that he's suffering from prostate cancer and he's had 25 treatments, I think. So it's quite an aggressive form of prostate cancer. So, he won the FA Cup with us. He did a good job when he was here, and I just wanted to start the podcast by sending a lot of love to him and his family at this difficult time and hope he makes a speedy recovery.
Yeah, I think we speak on behalf of United fans here when we say, our thoughts are with him and his family, and hope he recovers from it. When I read it, it's terrible news. I was shocked when I seen it.
Yeah, and me, to be honest, because he's still in charge of the Dutch team, and he said that he's been going for treatment, and the players didn't even know about it. So, it is a sad thing when it happens to anybody. So I just wanted to cover that off. I also wanted to cover off something that I read this morning that has annoyed me a little bit, to be honest. It's a report now that's come out this morning. It's been widely reported that the majority of the dressing room they seem quite happy and quite excited at the prospect of Eric Ten Hag taking over. And there's some of the dressing room that are split and a question in his credibility as a coach. If that is true, then obviously that kind of gives some of the reason why players have down tools with maybe Ralph Rangnick at the moment. But if that is the case, the club need to root out who these players are and get rid of them and get shot at them because, it's all in or, you've got to be all in and buying into the new manager. If there's anybody in that club that's not buying into the manager and his ways and things like that, then they need to be rid of before he even comes in. Back to Saturday's performance, I think the players are just down tools. We've spoken about it over the weekend on Messenger and things like that, and just felt like a testimonial game in the first half. I know the players may think, "Oh, we've got nothing to play for," but there was an outside chance of us getting top four. That's now gone. I mean, I spoke to you over the weekend and I said that, I'm done watching them. I don't think I'll watch them the rest of the season. I mean, I don't know if you feel the same way.
I was thinking about this last night. Obviously, we got Everton on Saturday, and I don't feel confident. I don't feel confident that we're going to go there and get a result. I know they're struggling and they're fighting to stay in the Premiership, but the way that we're playing at the moment, I'm kind of thinking, do I watch the game or do I just watch the highlights? Because I don't want to sit there for 90 minutes and watch us play really poor football like that we have been over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, and I agree with you. When as United fans, when did we ever think we'd say Everton were fighting relegation? When did we ever think we'd say that we'd go to Goodison Park has never been an easy place to go, granted, but when as Manchester United fans did we ever say, I'm not confident in Goodison Park? I mean, I was looking at some stats this morning. It's 9 years since we last won the Premier League, 5 years since we last won a trophy, 14 years since the last time we won the Champions League. For a club of our stature, it's... I mean, let's be honest here. If the rumours are led to be true, which I hope they are, and it is Eric Ten Hag that's coming in, it's not going to be something that he's going to fix overnight. I would say that we need it because of the amount of players that are potentially leaving and he wants rid of. I would say that we're going to need at least 3 full windows to start seeing fruition.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
And I think he said to the board, look, I'm going to need time because it's going to be. I think a lot of people, right, are just seeing it as, he'll come in, he'll make a few changes, and we'll start winning games. I the team, which we'll break down now in a bit, the team needs a complete and utter overhaul. Out of the starting 11 that started on Saturday, I would say that I would happily only probably keep one or two of them, if that.
Yeah.
I mean, if we break it down the squad, you look at the goalkeeping situation. We've got David De Gea, Dean Henderson, Lee Grant, and Tom Heaton. At the moment, the club has got 4 goalkeepers in and around the first team. 2 of which seem to be on the bench every week and don't even play. Why they're on the bench, I don't know. But Dean Henderson isn't really a direct competition for David De Gea. David De Gea hasn't really got somebody that's like. I mean, it's a bit of an odd position, isn't it, the goalkeeper? Because you don't see it at any club. Like Liverpool seem to have, Alisson. Arsenal seem to have their goalkeeper. City seem to have their goalkeeper. They seem to, the goalkeeper position in most clubs seems to be tied down. But you're not having, like, I don't think it's a position really that's like, as a club with United, we've been quite blessed with goalkeepers over the years. I mean, we've had a few bad ones, but we've had Peter Schmeichel, we've had, Schmeichel was replaced by Mark Bosnich, which was a bit of a failure. Then Fabian Barthez came in, and that was up and down. We've had Van der Sar that came in then, that done wonders. We've had David De Gea, we've had Ben Foster, we've had, loads of keepers. But I mean, when you think about, in terms of goalkeepers that we've had, we've been quite blessed in that position. We've probably had 3 of the best in Schmeichel, Van der Sar, and De Gea in his peak. But, for me, I think that in the summer, we need to be looking at the goalkeeping position, get rid of Lee Grant, get rid of Tom Heaton. And if, for example, De Gea's, Dean Henderson isn't good enough, then sell him. Get rid of him. If they think that he's going to make a change, then, keep him. But I think that we need an established backup goalkeeper, somebody that's prepared to play backup. And somebody that if De Gea needs a rest or hits a bad bit of form, we can bring him in the confidence that, he's going to perform.
Yeah, and I think that's why De Gea's position is so safe at the moment, because like you said, that we haven't got a goalkeeper to come in and to replace a good enough goalkeeper to come in and replace him. And I read a few comments from United fans over the weekend saying that his distribution is really, really poor. Obviously, he's good in other areas, but I think his distribution definitely does need to improve.
And the thing is, the goalkeeping position, as we know it, that's changed now. It's more of, I mean, you look at like Neuer for Bayern Munich, it's more of a sweeper keeper position now, where, he'll come out, maybe outside of the 18-yard box, he'll come up as far as, the halfway line, and he'll come out and challenge for the ball, and he'll play that position where he's sort of like just in front of the defensive, and he'll come out, and it is, as you said, it's more like a sweeper keeper position. And there's not many of them like it. Like, I think Alisson is quite good at it. I can't remember Man City's goalkeeper's name, but Edison, is it?
Edison, yeah, that's the one.
He's quite good at it. But it's a bit of a weird one, because it's, you wouldn't expect a goalkeeper to have to come out and make those kind of decisions, but he does that. Like Neuer, I was watching Neuer the other day for Bayern, and he was like, Bayern were, the ball was passed back to him, and he was working his way up the field, but he was just in front of the halfway line, like, and he was just knocking the ball around. And I was like, for goodness sake, it's like, we haven't got nobody like that. We haven't got anybody that commands the area. Like, De Gea is a great shot stopper, really, really good shot stopper. He can stop the ball. He made a fantastic save on Saturday that kept us in the game. But in terms of, like, commanding the area and stuff like that. I don't think he's that good. But as you said, because he's got nobody challenging him, and he's got nobody saying, well, if you make a mistake and come in for your position, he's probably of the mindset of, oh, well, there's nobody better than me in this position, so it doesn't matter if I play shit or crap, it's nobody's going to challenge me. I can get away with it. And I think the same stretches in certain positions throughout the team. Like, if we're breaking down the team, you look at the left back position. We paid silly amount of money for Wan-Bissaka, and he's probably one of the worst defenders in the league. We need a solid, left and right back, because we've got Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw, and other than that, we haven't really got much else to offer in that sense of the direction. Centre backs, you've got Varane, I think he's too slow for the Premier League, and I think while he's good and solid, I think he's too slow. We've got Maguire, who's useless. We've got Lindelof, we've got Eric Bailly, who's like a piece of glass. So we seem to have cover in those areas, but in terms of players coming in that could replace first teamers, there's not really anybody there. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on our defensive side of things, like.
I totally agree with you. Going back to some of the points, I think that's why we're seeing so many players in this team making so many mistakes, especially in defensive midfield, because we just haven't got the quality on the bench. Say if Harry Maguire is having a few poor games, we haven't got a good enough centre back to replace him. People might argue Victor Lindelof, but he's had an up and down career since he's joined United. Mm-hmm. I know Phil Jones, he wants to stay and fight for his place at the club, but I don't think Phil Jones is good enough. So we're going to have to, at some point over the next few seasons, it starts making sure that we've got players on the bench who will come into this United team if players in defence and midfield are having a few poor games. I think that this is something that the board and the owners have definitely got to start looking into. And if Ten Hag does come in the summer, then he's going to have a heart-to-heart with the board and say, listen, these are the players that have got to go, and these are the type of players we need to bring in if we want to start becoming a football club again. And
yeah, I think what we need is as well, I think that we lack, and I think you'll probably agree with me on this, we lack physicality in the team, and we haven't got strength in depth. So while we've got, I mean, on paper, if you look at our best starting 11 on paper, a few rival fans have said to me, why aren't you challenging for the title? And I'm like, because we've got really good individuals, but as a team, we can't play. We just can't gel together as a team. Now, for me, I'd forgotten about Phil Jones, right? But I mean, for me, we need, and I think this is something that Ten Hag wants as well. He wants like a bit of sort of like backbone to the team and a bit of strength in depth, and not only that, but he wants a bit of physicality, somebody that's not afraid to get their foot stuck in. Like Scott McTominay on Saturday, he put his foot through a Leicester player, and I thought he was lucky to stay on the pitch, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he was very lucky.
He's reckless. But what I'm saying is we need somebody, not I wouldn't say reckless, but somebody with a bit of aggressiveness and a bit of, just somebody with a bit of oomph about them, like a Roy Keane type of player. But then again, the game has evolved that much now. I mean, you look across, and you look back to the likes of Chelsea, Liverpool, Chelsea when they had John Terry, Liverpool had Gerrard and Carragher, and, we had Vidic and Roy Keane and things like that. So what I'm saying is the hard man of football now is gone and the game has changed so much, but we just need somebody to, there's not enough physicality in our team, and there's not enough. And as I said, going back to these players that are they're privileged now at the moment. They're happy getting their 200 grand a week. And they're probably turning around, as we've said, and said, well, like, for example, we'll use Wan-Bissaka, right, for example. If he has a poor game, he knows pretty much that he's going to start the next game because there's nobody really that can challenge him for that position. And, these players are probably thinking, the likes of Pogba. In Pogba's mind, Pogba probably thinks that he's our best player. But when he gets on the pitch and he crosses over that white line, he's probably thinking, well, I can afford to be shit today because, do you know what? He's still going to pick me next week because I'm their best player.
Yeah.
But there's too many players for my liking in like that of the club, and they need rooting out. Like, yes, Marcus Rashford isn't in form at the moment. Ronaldo said that he couldn't play on Saturday because he was suffering from a cold. So we had Elanga up front, and then Rashford was on the bench. Now, I understand Ranić not picking Rashford because, and I've said it myself, that Rashford needs a break. But when we don't have a recognised striker and we're going for top four, I think Ranić not starting Rashford on Saturday was a mistake.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even though Rashford's form hasn't been fantastic this season, when you see that Ronaldo's not starting, you automatically think, well, Rashford's got to start. So I don't quite get Ranić's thoughts and the way he set up on Saturday. I think he got it wrong. But again, he got it wrong. But it comes down to the players again who bottled it, because we had an outside. I think we'll have to admit Saturday there was an outside chance of winning that game, of pushing for top four. But it almost felt like the players just knew that. It almost feels like the players just know they're not going to qualify for Champions League football, and they've given up, and they're just looking forward to going on a holiday in the summer now when they're getting their massive wages every week, and they're not that bothered.
And most of them have been on holiday for the last 2 weeks. But I mean, again, then, all right, it comes down to me and I'm not criticising Ranić in any way, shape, or form, okay? Because, like, the way he talks about the club and things like that, and the things he's saying all the right things about the club in terms of, he's calling players out, he's calling the board out as well at times. But what I'm saying is maybe that is where somebody like a Ten Hag figure who's good with youth, okay, may do well in the role. Because, for an example, then, like if we go back to, and I know I'm trying to get away from the Fergie days, right? I'm trying to do that. But if we go back to the Fergie days, Fergie would have been the type of manager to pull Rashford aside and say to him, look, Marcus, I know your form's not the best. We've had a bit of a break since our last game. Ronaldo's come to me this morning and said he can't play today. But I need you to step up today and perform. I need you to step in and replace Ronaldo. If that was Rashford, it would have been like, the Rashford of old would have been like, yeah, let me at it. I'm chomping at the bit. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to, try and score. I'm going to prove a point. I'm going to prove my doubters wrong. But he just looked broken on the bench on Saturday. And I think if anybody at the club is in need of a new manager, I think it's him more than anybody.
Yeah, I think Gary Neville's come out and said that, hasn't he? That he's desperate. He needs a new manager to come in so he can start rebuilding his career at the club again.
Yeah, because if he genuinely feels that he's got no place at the club, then come out and say, but he's a Manchester lad born and bred, and I don't think that he feels that he hasn't got a future at the club. I just think that he's hit a bad vein of form, and it happens. It goes in cycles. Players do it. How many times over the years, were we, criticising the likes of Wayne Rooney, Ruud van Nistelrooy, or Van Persie when they weren't scoring goals regularly? They did a bad vein of form, and then it would just happen.
Yeah.
But like, if now, for an example, Ronaldo isn't fit on Saturday and we play Everton and Rashford's on the bench again, then, questions have to be asked. Like, obviously, Ranić sees things on the training pitch. Perhaps he's seeing something that we are not. Perhaps Rashford is one of the ones who has got a bad attitude and doesn't want Ranić in and doesn't like the idea of Ten Hag coming in. We don't know. But like, I don't know about you as well, but like, I have seen so many leaks about the club. Go back a few years ago, and none of this would have happened. Granted, social media wasn't as thing as it is now, but like, there is somebody within this club leaking information, and it's like, it's why haven't the club got nailed down who it is and dealt with it? It's there seems to be leaks coming out left, right, and centre about players being unhappy, the manager being choosing the wrong tactics, the manager doing this, that, and the other. There seems to be a lot of like negativity around the club, but nobody, ballsy enough to come out and say, well, yeah, I'm the one that's leaking all the information. It's like, it just baffles me. Like, I look at that squad now, right, and I have never felt so dejected and like so, not dejected, what's the word I'm looking for? Detached. I've never felt so detached from that team as I do now. I look at those players now and like, I don't know if I told you, like, but like, I didn't even watch the second half on Saturday because I was so disappointed with the first half, and then I had an update then on my phone then saying Leicester scored, and I thought, oh, there we go, another defeat. And then about 2 minutes later, then it came up that we'd equalised, and I put it on and I seen Fred's goal, and I seen the bit with Rashford at the end. But yeah, it's like I'm dreading like the 19th of April when we got Liverpool at Anfield, because that's just. And you know what? There'll be United fans, right? If we win that, there'll be United fans right across the country that will celebrate, saying, "Oh, we've stopped them winning the league. We've stopped them winning the league now by us beating them." That's what we've become. We go into Anfield hoping that we can win to stop them from winning the title. I mean, let's not take nothing away from Liverpool. There is a very, very high chance this year that they could win the quadruple. They could win the league. They could win the FA Cup. They won the League Cup, I think, didn't they?
Yeah, they won the League Cup against Chelsea.
They won the League Cup against Chelsea. They've got the easiest route to the final. I think they've got, like, they might have Bayern Munich in the semi-final. But there's a high possibility that we could be looking at a Liverpool-Manchester City Champions League final. There's a high possibility that the titles either go into Liverpool or Man City. And there's a high possibility that Liverpool could win the FA Cup as well. Now, if Liverpool were to win the FA Cup, the Champions League, the League Cup, and the Premier League in all one season, then the thought of that sickens me. But I know the thought of how our club is being run at the moment and the state of our club sickens me more. Like, I'm not too concerned about what Liverpool do. If Liverpool win the lot, then I'll say congratulations to them. Granted, through gritted teeth, but they deserve it because they've been the best team. They've been the more consistent. They play for the manager. They play for the shirt. I mean, I was watching them on Saturday when I was in work, and the amount of tracking back they do when they lose the ball, and the amount of tracking they do during the game, they literally leave nothing on. They leave everything on the pitch.
Yeah, I mean,
they buy into the philosophy. If like, for an example, Klopp is bringing off a player, like I think he took off Salah and brought on Mane. Salah looked disappointed to be coming off, but Klopp put his arm on him and he was like, look, he obviously explained to him the reasons why he was doing it. Salah accepted it and was laughing and joking with him and come off. But I think that, like I didn't see that from Ranić on Saturday. When he was bringing Rashford on, I didn't see him standing there saying to him, come on now, when I bring you on, I need you to do this, this, and this. he kind of leaves it to other people. I mean, Darren Fletcher, allegedly, I don't know how true this is, but a mate of mine was in the ground on Saturday, and he said that he seen Darren Fletcher arguing with a United fan, and they were going back and forth arguing with each other. I think if Ten Hag is coming in, it needs to be a complete reset. It needs to be everyone that's at the club now, coaching staff, Mike Phelan, Darren Fletcher, all these other coaches that are at the club now, get rid of them all and just say to Ten Hag, right, you can bring in your assistant, you can bring in your coaches, and we'll run with you a philosophy, the way you want to do things. You'll speak to us about players who you want to keep, players you want to get rid of, and we will just, if we've got the money, we'll say, yeah, we can afford him. If we haven't got the money, we'll say, no, we can't. And we will go from that. I mean, I would much rather have 5 players at 10 million each than 1 player at 50 million.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that. So I think we need to stop signing players just for
the
commercial reasons.
Element. For the commercial element, because that's. But what the Glazers do, and as I said to you, I said this to you back last year. I don't know if we did a video on it. I can't remember, but it was around the Super League, because it's about this time last year that all this Super League bollocks kicked off. And I said to you then, I said they'll get us Ronaldo in the summer, and then they won't get us no one else. And then when the fans question it, they'll say, "But we got you Ronaldo, we got you Jadon Sancho. We done this, we done that."
Yeah.
The only reason they bought Ronaldo was because Man City were in for him. They wanted to get one over Man City, and they thought, if we bring back Ronaldo, the fans will forgive us and they'll be on our side. They spoke about a fan shared initiative and, meetings with the fans and things like that. The Glazers did. That hasn't happened. All their promises that they promised us as a club at the time when they come out to the Super League, they've all been broken. But nobody's mentioning that because the football on the pitch is so bad that the Glazers are just sitting back and thinking, well, it's the players now, that are getting criticism. The players are getting criticism. Ranieri's getting criticism. And the board are just sitting there going, well, we've got away with this. It's yet again, we haven't kept our promises, but they're talking about other things now. And it's just, I personally think, and I think you feel the same way as me because we've had conversations. And it won't happen, but I think, and until there's a change at board level, or until the board or the owners allow us to be run as a football club again, not as a business, I think that Ten Hag will come in and he will fail. They will promise him players and they won't deliver, and they'll get run out of time with him and he will fail. Or are the Glazers going to shock us all and just, realise that they can't afford to keep sacking managers, they can't afford to keep chopping and changing managers, and have they sat down with Ten Hag and said to him, look, if you come in, you can run the club the way you want to run it, you can have full control over transfers, over this, that, and the other. Because I'm hearing rumours that he's gone in and said, I will only come if I can do this, this, and this. And the board have agreed to it. But how many times have we seen the board agreeing to something and then halfway through backtracking and going, oh, well, actually, we can't. I know we told you could do that, but you can't do it now.
Yeah,
and
just going back.
That is my concern, because then what happens is then if 12, 18 months down the line, Ten Hag comes in the summer, and 12, 18 months down the line, the board decide to pull the brakes up and go, hang on a minute, whoa, no, I know we told you could do that, but actually we looked at the finances and you can't. Is he going to say, well, fuck this, I'm off, and you told me that, I could do this, this, and this, and we will never know that. But I think what the board need to do is they need to allow the football inside of things to be run by people who know how to run a football club, and the commercial side of things and the business side of things where they're making money to be run by people who know how to deal with that kind of thing, because heaven knows they've got enough people within the club who have come from investment banking, merchant banking. I mean, you've got John Murto, Woodward. They've all come from a banking experience. So allow them to run the commercial side of things and allow the footballing people to run the footballing side of things.
Yeah, just before we move on, I just want to quickly mention what you mentioned about the Glazers. I think if they're ever going to change their ways, I think they would have done it after the success of Ferguson. They would have carried that on, brought in the manager to take this club forward for 5 seasons, and then back that manager financially, allow them to make their decisions. But we haven't seen it at all. What was it, the first manager?
Since like Sir Alex has retired.
Yeah.
Do you think the Glazers have ever sat back and thought, "Oh, we had it good under Sir Alex. We did a bit of trouble here because we can't seem to win a trophy. We can't seem to have the togetherness that Sir Alex brought." And do you think maybe they've leaned on him during the difficult times, and said to him, well, what did you do when it was like this? What did you do when a situation like this happened? Like the situation with the striker, who I still won't name because people will be listening. The striker that allegedly, I've read this morning, is coming back to training in 14 days' time. He's able to resume full training. I don't know how true that is, but that's a little rumour I've had from a mate of mine this morning. But do you think maybe like they leaned on him and said to him, "Oh, if this had happened under your tenure, how would you have dealt with it?" But I think they're so far detached from football that they would go to Sir Alex and they would say to Alex, "Sir Alex, right, if this happened when you was manager, how would you have dealt with it?" But what they're not realising is that when he was manager, and I'll give you an example of something that happened that Fergie had to deal with, Eric Cantona kicking Matthew Simmons in the crowd. Yeah. They would probably lean on that and say, "Well, how did you deal with that?" But not realising that the way of the world and the way things work now has changed so much in like 20 years. I think the Glazers are that far detached from our club and from reality that they would go to Sir Alex and they would say, how would you have dealt with that 25 years ago? And Sir Alex would go, "This is how I would have dealt with it." And the Glazers would go, "Right, we'll do the same thing." There's a lot of talk about DNA and the United way and things like that. And I think you and me have both covered it off, but and said that, we need to find a new United way. The United way of old won't work anymore.
Yeah, there's...
the structure of the way the club used to be run when Sir Alex was in charge, he would know everybody from the laundry lady to the dinner lady to the receptionist to everyone. That is now, that culture has changed. And Ollie tried to do it as well. He bought hampers for all the staff at Christmas time. He used to go in and address the receptionist lady by her first name. He'd go in the canteen and he'd address them by their first names. He'd want the players turning up at matches in full club suits. He'd want the players eating together. And that doesn't work. I mean, in the lines of social media and the way things are now, players are just like, well, we'll do our own thing. We want to do our own thing. We don't want to be doing, we don't want to be on social media and like event days and things like that. They'll do the odd one. But, you don't see it as often now. And I just think that whoever comes in, whether it be Ten Hag, Pochettino, whoever comes in, they need to realise that they've got... Just treat it as a brand new club. Just treat it as a club that's just been started. And just let him run it the way he wants to. Just say, "Look, this is your budget. This is how much you've got for players. This is how much you've got for wages. We're going to cap the wage structure. So, you're not going to have players 400-500 grand a week holding us to ransom. We're going to be in a position where we can cut people's contracts if they don't. And, have basically all new players that come in, have them on performance-related contracts." So, for an example, now in my job, right, I've got a basic salary and I get paid a commission based on how well I perform. but at the end of every year, I get a pay raise based on how well I performed the previous year. So what I'm saying is, if I'm not performing in my job, and you were doing the same job as me, but you were performing, and you had a $3,000 pay rise, and I didn't get a pay rise, I wouldn't then throw my toys out the pram and say, well, Andrew had a pay rise, I didn't, because basically you performed better than me over the course of the year, so you deserve to have extra money than me because you perform better. But if we have performance-related contracts for players coming in and saying, well, this is your basic wage, if you want to earn more, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. And if you don't earn that, then you're on your basic thing.
Yeah,
I suppose an element of greed kicks in then, though, because you'll have somebody then. If we had somebody and we said, right, your basic salary is 150 grand a week, and you get 50 grand extra if you score X amount of goals. Do you know what I mean? I just think it needs to be performance related. And I think between Ten Hag and Rangnick, I mean, Rangnick has been in charge 6 months, 8 months, perhaps 6 months, perhaps, is it? 6 months.
6 months.
It'll be 6 months to the end of the season. I mean, we haven't won a game in 3 months, but it'll be 6 months to the end of the season. So he really now should have an idea of who wants to play for the club, who doesn't want to play for the club, who's good and who's rubbish. Yeah, you'd think that he'd have an idea of that.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, if Ten Hag is to be the manager, he should be sitting down now with Ten Hag. He may well be, we don't know. But he should be sitting down with Ten Hag and saying, right, the goalkeeping situation, that's something you need to address. Left back, that's something you need to address. Central midfield, that's something you need to address. Up front, you need somebody with a bit of balls as well. Anybody at Ajax you could think of, you could bring with you, and he'd go, well, there's this, and this. Could potentially do that. But I've been watching so-and-so while I've been at Ajax, and I think he'll come good. Those are the kind of conversations that should be happening now, in my opinion. But I can see why the club are maybe it's all done and maybe it's agreed. And from what I've seen this morning on social media, it is agreed and it's just waiting to be announced. But you know what you've got to remember is, and in respect to Ajax as well, they're in the middle of a title race at the moment. They're going for the title.
Yeah.
So out of respect for Ajax, I can fully understand why the club wouldn't want to announce anything at the moment. The club wouldn't want to say, all right, at the end of the season, Erik Ten Hag is going to become a manager, because the Ajax players may not be. The Ajax players are obviously aware that he's had an interview with the club, but the Ajax players may not be aware of that. And they may be thinking, well, Ajax might have said out of respect, until the title's done and dusted, can you not mention that he's leaving? We're happy for him to go to you at the end of the season. But then, you've got fans then tweeting the Man United official page, announce Ten Hag now. Why isn't he been announced yet? These things take time. It may already be agreed. There's things. The only thing that's apparently led to be discussed this week, not from what I'm led to believe, is like his severance package, which is less than €2 million to leave Ajax. I think he's got a release clause in there. Is obviously his salary and obviously him laying down the laws. But like for me, the fact that we need a complete overhaul and we're now in April, the season ends in May. I ideally want it done so that, let's say, for example, the season ends 15th of May, yeah?
Yeah.
I don't know when it ends. But I want it, if Rangnick moves upstairs on the 15th of May, on the 16th of May or the 20th of May, Ten Hag comes in and starts his job then. So then we've got all of May. The transfer window then opens in June. He can get working in on his transfer targets. He can say to the board, this is who I want, go and get them. The board then can try and get them. He'd have a full pre-season then with the squad. He can get rid of who he wants, keep who he wants. He'll get to see the squad. And he'll get to see them, he'll have dossiers and stuff on them. And then, hit the ground running. and, start the season with a bang and start the rebuild with a bang. But knowing the way United are run, it'll probably drag on and drag on and drag on. He probably won't get announced until June or the end of June. Pre-season training will begin in July. And then he'll probably give him a list then of 5 players then that he wants, and he'll probably end up with 3 of them.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident it has been done, but like what you said there, with the fact that Ajax are still in the title race, obviously the club and Ajax have probably come to an agreement not to announce it until the end of the season, not to interfere with Ajax's seasons. Our season is over.
Don't you think though with that, like, don't you think though, thinking back on it now, don't you think though that maybe like Ajax and Manchester United could release a joint statement saying, United side could say, whilst we understand Ajax are still in their season, and we didn't want this to come out this early because of the leaks that are all over the internet. We have, we think it's better to announce that, Erik ten Hag will be the new Manchester United manager at the end of the season. Because obviously what's happening is I think Ajax and United wanted to keep it under wraps, but I think the way these leaks are breaking online, I think that they will have to make an announcement this week. At some point this week, something's going to have to come, because I mean, between last night and tonight alone, my timeline is full of people saying it's a done deal. It's just waiting to be finalised before it's announced.
I think Gary Neville will come out on Saturday after the Leicester game. He said he's confident that the new manager will be announced this coming week. Yeah. So obviously he must have been told something from somebody that the club is going to happen at some point this week.
But I think as well, when it came out about Fergie retiring, I mean, I was in work the day that it came out that he was retiring. But like he kind of pulled the players aside, because when the players arrived at training, there was all cameras and stuff there, wasn't it, on the day that Fergie announced his retirement? Yeah. It had leaked in the press. Like, I had heard that on the Sunday night before it was announced, I had heard on social media, I didn't know what it was, but I had heard several reporters, I think Gary Lineker was one of them as well, tweeting, if what I've heard about Manchester United is true, it is going to shock the world tomorrow. And I knew that there was something big coming then. Now, I didn't think that it was going to be, Sir Alex retiring. I thought it was something else. But, like, I knew the night before that there was something big coming. But, like, I didn't expect to hear that. But, I mean, Sir Alex pulled the players aside and he said to them, look, I didn't want it to come out this way. But you would have found out by the press anyway, so I'm telling you now, before they do and before it gets released, I'm going to the end of the season because I want to spend more time with my wife and I'm retiring. And he pulled them aside in the dressing room and he said that. Now, I think it could be something similar this week where, the press in Ajax may intensify, the press over here may intensify, and I think Ten Hag will pull the players aside and he'll say, look, guys, I'm retiring at the end of the season. And it worked because, Fergie told the players that he was retiring and the players made it their mission to win the title for him and go back. I don't know what he said, but I mean, I'd imagine he'd say something like, go and get the title back from him before I go. That's all I want from him. And, it may spur the Ajax players to come on. I don't think there'd be any harm in announcing him this close to the end of the season, because the only thing that I can think of why they haven't announced him is because they did it and perhaps they're waiting on, perhaps obviously the fact that some of the players are split over him and the manager split over him and, like Fergie likes Pochettino, perhaps they're holding on. Perhaps we are thinking it's done. I don't know. I just want it sorted so we can start to make plans on looking forward to the new season. And, I just think that delaying it is it's going to make things worse because, granted, look, the season is done now. He's not going to be able to change anything this season, but at least we as fans know then well, look, going forward, this is what we can come to expect. This is, we know what our manager's going to be. We know the types of players they want because he's come out to put it on the Stretford Enders Facebook page this morning. The 4 things that he wants from the board. He wants to have, I think it was full control. I can't get hold of the article at the moment because we're recording a podcast, but there was 4 things that he wanted from the board, and the board have apparently said to him, yeah, you can have those 4 things. But we just need to, listen, I've been a United fan since 1985. I've said I'll say that I won't watch them the rest of the season, but you know what I'm like. I'll end up crumbling and watching them. My wife said to me on Saturday, "So why are you watching them? They finished," and I was like, "Because it's a habit. It's kind of a habit, isn't it? When you support the club for as long as we have, it kind of you just I watched the game on Saturday, expecting a better performance than I did against Leicester, and then I'll watch the next game expecting a better performance than I did against Everton. But it's like I'm dreading playing Liverpool. I'm away on holidays that week actually, so maybe that's a good thing. I don't know, but I can't see anything other than a win against a heavy defeat against Liverpool.
I think the only way that we'll pick up any kind of result against Liverpool is if we go there and park the bus and frustrate them for 90 minutes. But even then, I still think they've got too much quality. They'll just pick us off. They'll just pick the team off one by one, and throughout the game, they'll find it open and they'll score one. And I think then they'll go on. Open. Yeah, they'll floodgates open and they'll go and score 4 or 5.
Yeah, but they did it at Old Trafford, didn't they? But for me, it's like there's United fans out there. Like Liverpool have basically I work with a couple of Liverpool fans, yeah. And the words they've said to me was, "Win all our games, we win the league." But there'll be some United fans out there that'll be like, "Oh, if we can just go there and get a point, or we can go there and nick a win, that means City will win the league and they won't win it."
See, this is what really annoys me about some United fans. But I'm seeing United fans over the weekends after we drew against Leicester saying, "Oh well, or as long as Liverpool don't win the league this year, I'm not that bothered." Well, we shouldn't be concentrating on Liverpool. We should be concentrating on our own team.
Yeah, and let's be honest with you, okay? We said at the start of this podcast, it's probably going to take 3 windows to start before we start seeing improvements. Let's be honest with you. If they don't win it this year, they'll win it within the next 3 years to beat our record of 21.
Yeah.
If they win the league this year, they'll level with us on 21, and I guarantee you they'll get to 22 before we do, because the way the club is run, that club is being run now the way United was run under Fergie and Peter Kenyon. No, David Gill. Sorry, not Peter Kenyon. The way Liverpool is being run now is being run like Manchester United were being run when we were in our prime, and we had David Gill and Sir Alex, and we had that glorious period where we were in 3 Champions League finals in 3 years. We won the league consistently. I think I'm on from about 2007 to 2010, that kind of period where Ronaldo was he was undroppable. We went to the Emirates, we played Chelsea in the Champions League final. Well, literally, we got to the Champions League final in 2008 to beat Chelsea. We got to Rome in 2009 and lost to Barca, prime Barcelona. And we didn't get there in 2010, and we got to Wembley then in 2011, and we lost the final to Barcelona in Wembley in 2011. I'm on about that period, where we were basically, even Liverpool fans said that period of time, you were the best team in the world.
Yeah, we were.
Because nobody could get near us.
Because we had the team as well. We had the group of players who were constantly believing that they could go and beat anyone and go and win leagues and win trophies. The team that we got at the moment is seriously lacking belief.
Yeah, that's the thing, as you said. That's exactly what it was. We had the team at that time that had the belief that they could go out and beat anybody. You know, that team at that time would go out and they would literally, right, teams would come to Old Trafford and they would have lost the game before they even stepped foot off the bus.
Yeah.
They would have lost the game before they.
And you got teams coming to Old Trafford now who are not worried about playing United at Old Trafford.
We've lost this. The crowd would be up. You know, they'd be in faces. You know, it's both sad and scary, but how far we have fallen as a team. It is unbelievably scary how poor we've become. They're the sides now that, you know, somebody said on Twitter last night or this morning, early hours this morning, if we had gone with Conte instead of Ranić, we would be challenging for the title. And I was like, I don't know about that.
No.
I think, you know, when Ollie had lost his job at United, I think he had a 41.19% win record.
Yeah.
I think Ranić is something like 42.19. So another question that's been asked to me by Liverpool fans is, are you any better now than if Solskjaer had still been in the job? Do you think you'd be in a similar position to where you are now if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer stayed in the job? And I was sort of like, I was unsure, to be honest with you. Like, and it's like, what are your thoughts on it? Do you think that if we hadn't have had the bad run of form that we had, which led to Ole's demise, obviously, sadly, do you think that he was getting somewhere with the team that he had, or do you think that he was just getting lucky and going through the motions?
I do. In a way, I believe he was trying to build something. But then when you look at some of the games under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I think we've got to agree. A lot of the games, a lot of the points, the wins that we picked up, I think we were extremely lucky.
Oh yeah, I mean tactically, he was so inept tactically. You know, he didn't have a clue, did he? You know, he was clueless tactically. But like for me, what I liked about him was the togetherness, the belief. You know, he had the players playing for the shirt in certain games. And there were games, you know, and you probably agree with me, there were games that I witnessed under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer where I thought, my God, I haven't felt like I said Fergie was in charge.
Yeah,
I would leave games and I would feel amazing. We'd be 1-0 down, right, but like 5 minutes to go. And I'd be thinking, for the first time in years, I'd be thinking, we can turn this around, we can get something here. We can get a result here. But then it just seemed to, you know, people are saying, right, Ronaldo ruined it. Because we signed Ronaldo. And, you know, he was the wrong signing, we shouldn't have signed him and things like that. But for me, like, if we hadn't signed Ronaldo, we wouldn't have got out of our Champions League group. Let's take nothing away from that. We wouldn't know when you're getting out of our Champions League group if it wasn't for Ronaldo, because every game in the group stage, he salvaged it. He saved something. He got something for us. Whether it was we were 2-0 down and we were drawing, whether or not it was like we were drawing 2-2 and he scored the winner. He got us out of that group single-handedly on his own. Without him, we wouldn't have got out of that group. So I look at that, but then like I look at other games then like that he's played, and I thought, has he really done anything? You know, has he really made that much of? Like the question I'd ask you is, right, if you look at like when we signed Ronaldo, how did you feel as a fan?
I didn't feel excited. because I didn't feel that Ronaldo would come back and have the same impact. Yes, he carried us through the Champions League this season, but I think there's been a lot of games where Ronaldo's looked frustrated, and there's been times where he's looked like he hasn't wanted to be at the football club. And I think a lot of that is down to the fact that the quality of players he's got around him. When you just look at that, when you look at Aids under Ferguson, when he was the type of players he was playing under, he was playing with some of the best players, and he was playing with some of the best players in the world. Now he's playing with players who are probably Everton, West Ham players.
But he's always had high standards, though, isn't he, Ronaldo? You know, when he was a player, you look at, you know, when he was in his prime, as you know, when he went to Madrid, when you look at what he's achieved in the game, I mean, I personally think he's better than Messi, and he's the best player in the world. You know, to be honest, on his day, he was the best player in the world. And now, you know, he could have a game now. He didn't play on Saturday. People are saying he's refused to play. I don't know if there's any shred of truth in that, because then I've heard him coming out and saying that he's looking forward to staying and helping the manager get back on top, and he may even consider extending his contract by a further year. But he wanted assurances of who's coming in as manager. Now, I can understand why he asked that, because I always remember Wayne Rooney going to Sir Alex Ferguson and saying, well, before I commit my future to this club, who will we signing in the summer? And Fergie said to him, it's none of your business. You shouldn't be asking that question. I'm the manager. I decide who we sign. But I can understand why players want to know, you know, like, I can understand why Ronaldo would want to know what's happening and what potential plans are, because at the end of the day, he's 37, 38. He knows that he's coming close to. He could probably play until he's. Look, the man's a machine. He could probably play until he's like 42, 43, and still do bits. But like, he probably wants to. He probably came back and he probably thought, I'm going to win the title. I'm going to help us win the title, and I'll go down in history. I was stupid enough to say when he signed, I'll admit that I was stupid enough to say he's going to win us the league. He's the difference. He's going to win us the league. I was stupid because at that time, the way we had started, I felt a bit after the Europa League final when we lost. I felt that was a bit. I thought a bit unlucky. I felt we were, but then we didn't do nothing, and we did nothing for the 90 minutes for the extra time, and then we lost on penalties. But I genuinely think, right, that if we had a bit more strength in depth, right, and we played that game again, I genuinely think we would have won the Europa League. And then that could have been the catalyst then for Ole to kick on. But I think he was so dejected at losing that like he sort of like maybe lost a bit of belief, and then he took his eye off the ball, and then the players lost belief, and then they just down tools on him. But I mean, I don't know. Would we be better off if Ole was still in charge? Probably not.
I think if Ole was still in charge, I think we would be 9th or 10th by now. Because I think because the players had already lost belief in Ole at that point. I think the performances would have been a lot worse, and I think we probably would have lost a lot more games than we actually have at the moment as well.
But for me, see, when Ole left, we were pushing top 4. So for me then, as a board, if me and you were running the football club, right? Let's say me and you were in charge of Manchester United Football Club, right? We would sit down and we would go, look, we are 6 points off top 4. Let's say, for argument's sake, when Ole went, we were 6 points off top 4. We're 6 points off top 4. We've had to let go of the manager because he's lost the dressing room, and there's literally, he had to go, right? His position had become untenable at that point, right? Yeah. So then the questions I'd be looking at is do we look at what's available now, i.e. bringing in a new manager, pay the compensation, and get the new manager in now? Or do we bring in an interim manager till the end of the season make the club and all the fans fully aware that it's only on an interim basis and he will be replaced at the end of the season. And then once we've done that, reevaluate it and see who's available come the end of the season. Because personally, for me speaking, if I was running that club when Ole got sacked, I would have looked to bring in, if it is going to be Ten Hag, I would have looked to have brought him in then. Now, Ten Hag has openly come out and said that he doesn't move clubs mid-season. So again, maybe that is why they didn't make the move to appoint him mid-season and they didn't go for Conte. Or maybe they went for Conte and Conte said, I'm not coming in and doing a part-time job and then you're sacking me off at the end of the season. And then they found Ranić then. I was quite happy to say, look, I'll oversee things for 6 months. But in 6 months' time, my job is I'm a football consultant. I'm in a consultancy role. So as long as you can give me a consultancy role where when I step down, I go upstairs, I come to you with opinions, and you value my opinions and take them on board, maybe that is why they went for Ten Hag. Because Ten Hag had no managerial experience. For the last X amount of years, he's been in a football consultancy role, which means that he's not managing a team, so he's not aware of the inner runnings of a team. But, like, for me, to do what we did, okay, with Ranić, I think we could have given it to Michael Carrick at the end of the season. Because
I think we should have.
Carrick had been in and around the club. He granted he managed for 2 games, so the players seemed to lift themselves a bit for him. Whereas, like, Ranić's come in, and I think the players have just gone, fuck this guy, you haven't got a clue. He's a consultant, he's a football consultant. He's not a manager. He doesn't know how to manage a club. He doesn't know how to get the best out of us. He's not done his coaching badges. He's not done this. He's not done that. He hasn't coached the club for 8-10 years.
Yeah, I think we should have given it to Carrick because I thought he was doing really well when he stepped in. But obviously,
if again we won't know this and we never will, but if it got to the stage then where they'd had a conversation with Ranić and Ranić has said, I only come and do it if I can go upstairs at the end of the season and I can run the footballing side of things.
Yeah.
Now, if the board have agreed to allow him to do that, and then what I've read over the weekend is that they're thinking about pulling the strings on that a bit now because he hasn't done as well as they'd expected as a manager, then we're finished as a club. Because if they do not allow him to do that, then we are finished as a club. I'll tell you that now, we are finished as a club. And you can write off next season, you can write off anything. We are done as a club. We may as well fold as a club. Because if the board are making promises like that to Ten Hag and then they're going to pull a pin on it, then they're going to do the same to Ten Hag. They're going to do the same to the next manager that comes in and the next manager that comes in after that. We spoke before as well about longevity of managers. 4 or 5 years now is a long time for a football manager. You're not going to get a manager that comes in that's going to be in the club 10, 20 years.
Yeah, you're probably looking about 5-6 seasons maximum, and
Yeah. What I would say is, right, is allow Ten Hag to come in, allow him to pick his own staff, have his own philosophy, tell the players what his philosophy is. If the players don't buy into it, fuck them off, get rid of them. Have a bit of balls about him. Not be afraid to say to anybody, you're playing shit, you don't want to be here, there's the door.
Yeah.
Allow the footballing people to do the footballing side of things. And if the Glazers want to earn money by advertising, marketing, sponsorship deals, employ people to take care of that side of things and say to them, we've got footballing people in to deal with the footballing side of things. This is your job. You stay out of that and don't get involved in that. You deal with that side of things. We deal with this side of things.
Yeah.
And as long as that happens, right, I will categorically put my hand on my heart and say, as long as we invest in the right areas, Ten Hag is allowed to bring in his philosophy, and we give Ten Hag a 5-year contract. Within 5 years, he will win a trophy, and you will go back to seeing us playing some way to the United of old that we remember. Not exactly the same way, but you will see massive improvements. If he's not allowed to do that, and this time next season, we're talking about Ten Hag out, we should have gone for Pochettino, we should have done this, we should have done that, then you may as well fold as a football club, because he needs to be given the time. And all these managers that have come in were promised time.
Yeah.
Ole, promised time. Jose, promised time. Van Gaal, promised time, promised money. If Mourinho hadn't come out and slagged the board off as much as he did, Mourinho would have won a trophy. Mourinho did win a trophy with us. He won the Europa League. But he would have won more. But when the board realised, I think we would have won the league by now.
Yeah.
It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. The football, it was nowhere near pretty. It wasn't very good, and it wasn't pretty. But he would have allowed us to win trophies, and he would have got that winning, like, bastard attitude, so to speak. You know, winning, I don't care, win dirty, don't care as long as we get 3 points. He would have got that back in the players. But the minute he come out and he spoke about the board and he slagged Woodward off, and he was done. He was dead man walking. He was gone. And my only concern is if, like with Ten Hag, if Ten Hag comes up and criticises the board, they pull a pin on it and they go, "Ten Hag, then we're not having to slag us off. Off we go. Off we talk." But let me tell you now, right? I would be annoyed if any United fan that is calling for Ten Hag's name now and saying Pochettino nowhere near us, I don't want to near us. If any United fan now, in 6-8 months' time, let's say, you know, where we are now, which we quite possibly will be, if that is the case and we're in a bad position, if any United fan comes up and says, "Oh, we should have gone for Pochettino," then I'd tell him straight, you was asking for Ten Hag. No, you can't say, "Oh, I want Ten Hag, and then if he doesn't win trophies, I want Pochettino." Let's say that, let's go worst case scenario, right? Let's say Ten Hag comes in, he doesn't win anything, and he gets sacked off as manager, right?
Yeah.
They then go for Pochettino. Pochettino comes in, doesn't win anything. They bin him off as manager as well. Where the fucking hell do we go then as a club? Because Guardiola's even come out and said, Ten Hag's the man. Ten Hag is the man for Man United, go for him. You know, when you've got managers like that coming out and saying, that's what you need to be looking at, then there's something not right, is it? You know what I mean? And the board is still in and out. Do you know what I mean? They're like, oh.
And the thing is, what
the board are probably thinking is, if we get Ten Hag now, we've got to pay 1.8 million compensation for him. Oh, but if we hang on a few weeks and PSG sack Pochettino, we can get him for free. And Pochettino's managed in the Premier League. He's got experience managing in the Premier League. Ten Hag's only ever managed in the Dutch League. So if we bring in Pochettino, he's come close to winning Champions League with Spurs. You know, if he can get us on our level, get us top 4 every season, if he can get us on our level, we'll be all right. And
do you think
that's all our board cared about. That's all our board cared about is, which is why I've said it doesn't bother me. And I think we'd be better off if we didn't get Champions League this year, didn't get European football. So we've got a season where, you know, the players and the club are out to Europe and they're not earning any money.
Do you think that that's the reason the club are holding off Ten Hag, because they think, oh, if Pochettino is sacked, we won't have to pay anything to get him in?
No, in the way the club are run, then yeah, that's the reason. That's I'm 95% confident that that's the reason why we haven't announced Ten Hag. Or that's the reason why we did it in. And do you know what? If we're not careful, we'll end up losing him to Bayern or Dortmund, and then you may as well just fold the club then.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like I don't understand Pochettino saying all the right, Ten Hag saying all the right things. I'm excited at the prospect of coming in, rebuilding the club, doing bits with the club, and the board are just like, we need to further talk. Or what they'll do is, if Pochettino comes out and says that he's staying at PSG, which is a high possibility that he will, what the club will then probably do, they'll probably extend Ranić's contract till Christmas time, wait for Luis Enrique to see how he does in the World Cup with Spain, and then try and get Luis Enrique for Spain. Because that was another rumour that I heard as well. They were on about extending Ranić's contract till Christmas, till the World Cup is finished with Luis Enrique, and then getting Luis Enrique in then.
That was a question I want to ask you around that. If you had to make a decision out between Ten Hag and Luis Enrique, who would you go for at this moment in time?
Ten Hag.
Yeah.
Ten Hag, 100%. Ten Hag.
Because I think Luis
no ifs, no buts, no maybe it's Ten Hag. I've wanted Ten Hag since I seen him first play at Ajax. Because I've watched Ajax. I love the way he plays. I love his attitude, his philosophy, his style, his thought process behind everything. I love the way he just, he promotes youth. I love everything about him. And you know what? If he comes in and if he comes in and he doesn't do well, then we cross that bridge when we come to it. But he needs to be any manager who comes in, whatever manager comes in, need to be given time.
Yeah, they
can't just, he's going to need at least 3, maybe 4 windows to get his team. Basically, right, what I would do is, if I was a United manager going in the summer, I would sit down with all the players and I would say to them, who wants to stay? And if nobody puts their hands up, or everyone puts their hands up and go, yeah, I'll stay. Right, if you stay in, these are the conditions that you stay under. I want X, Y, and Z from you. If you don't want to give me that, there's the door. You know where the door is. Now, right now, if you was to ask me what players I would keep at Manchester United, I mean, Bruno Fernandes has just signed a 5-year contract. So whoever the new manager is has obviously been very happy to allow Bruno to sign for 5 years.
Yeah.
Because he's just signed a new 5-year contract. So they're obviously talking to a manager because they've given Bruno Fernandes a 5-year contract. Unless they're that stupid, then they've just handed him a contract willy-nilly like they do anyway. But if I was the manager now, and I was Ten Hag, I would want to keep Bruno Fernandes, Cristiano Ronaldo, David De Gea, Anthony Elanga, and possibly Marcus Rashford. The rest of the players can go. And I would say to Harry Maguire, you're leaving, so I'm taking the captaincy off you, and I'm giving it to Bruno Fernandes. And I would give Bruno Fernandes the captaincy. Or Cristiano Ronaldo. If Ronaldo's staying for one more season, I'd give it to Ronaldo, and then give it to Bruno. And I would just say, I would rebuild the team from top to bottom. I would just completely restart. From goalkeeper right the way through. And that's what I would do. And that's what's needed. Whether or not it will happen is a different kettle of fish, but that is what I think is needed. And that is what I think only, and as I said, to allow us to be run as a football club, then and only then will we start to see differences in the way the team are performing, the way the team are playing. If we don't see that, then we'll be having this conversation this time next year. Mark my words.
Yeah, I think
whether Ten Hag was the right man for the job.
I think what will happen in the summer, I think Ten Hag will come in. He'll take the entire squad on the pre-season tour to Australia, and I think that's where he'll decide what players are really good enough to be at this football club.
But he shouldn't have to do that. He shouldn't have to do that if Ranić is allowed to do his role, because Ranić, I've seen this side for what it is, and Ranić can sit him down and say, Jesse Lingard, get rid of him. Pogba, get rid of him. He's a virus. Rashford, he's good, but he needs a bit of nurturing.
Yeah.
Mason Greenwood, if he comes back, he's good, needs a bit of nurturing. You've had a bit of a rough time, you need to just, give him a bit of leeway. Ronaldo is Ronaldo. He doesn't need coaching, he's his own man. There's a couple of youngsters in the reserve team, Charlie Savage, Annabelle, Charlie McNeil. We got who's the guy in Nottingham Forest? What's his name? What's his name? He's doing really well for Forest at the moment.
Ghana?
Yeah, get Ghana back from Forest. Get him in and amongst the first team. Ranić should be doing that now. I don't want to leave it where Ten Hag takes him away to Australia, does a pre-season tour, and then goes, Lingard impressed me in pre-season. Because if that's allowed to happen, what will happen. The players they'll turn it on a bit to try and impress Ten Hag to keep him on their side. And then when he's said, you can stay, they're just down tools again, man.
And I think that's
Ten Hag needs to go in and go, I don't like you, I don't want you, you are nowhere near the club. You go in, bump, and he just needs to go down them like that and go, right, you, and you can stay, the rest of you can go. I don't want you here if you don't want to play. And he needs to go in with that attitude. No, we'll give you a chance and see what happens. You've had your chances, you can go.
And I think that's the major concern
for far too long.
Yeah, I think that's the major concern that I have in the back of my mind, that he is going to take the whole of the team on the tour, and players like Jesse Lingard, Phil Jones, Juan Mata will have a good pre-season, and he'll say, I'll keep these and I'll use them throughout the season. I'm pretty sure he's intelligent enough not to do that, but I think there's always going to be an element of risk.
That's why I said, because the risk is always there. That's what I said. Anyway, I'm going to have to wrap up. I got to go somewhere. But it's been a pleasure. We've done nearly an hour. But no, I've enjoyed it, but it's been good. And as you said, I'll leave you now to close it down and tell people where they leave their feedback and comments and things like that, and what's coming up and things like that. And we'll try and get on again. I got a couple of days off next week. So we'll get together and probably discuss Everton next week at some point. If I can get away, because obviously the kids are on annual leave and on half term and things like that, and I'm going away on holidays and the week after, so I'm probably not going to take my phone with me. I'm just going to have a week off and just chill out. But I should be available to do something next week, a bit to do next week, and I obviously, we look at something like that then. But it's been a pleasure, but as always.
Yeah, as always, Gavin, it's been a pleasure. You've made some excellent points, as always, again. Thank you, but I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, no worries. Cheers.
I hope you've enjoyed listening to the podcast this afternoon. It's always a pleasure to have Gavin on one of the shows. Gavin always makes excellent points when he comes on. If you have enjoyed listening, hit that like button, leave your comments in the comment box below. Let us know what you thought about the podcast. If you are new to the channel, do remember to subscribe to the channel on the bottom right hand corner, and also share the channel with other United fans. There's going to be lots going on the channel over the next few days. I'm going to be on every day this week, bringing you your latest United news. So make sure you switch on that notification icon bell so you get notified when those shows go up on the channel. Do also join our Facebook group. We've always got some really good conversations that go on the group every day. I'll put the link in the video description. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will speak to you soon.